let us know who you are, Eloise, and do you put hot sauce on it?
Okay, hi. So my name is Eloise Leeson. I am the founder and consultant behind OLIM, a linguistics communication consultancy that helps companies close the gap between what they think they're saying and what's actually being received. I am a hot sauce person all the way. Not so much that it makes me cry, second stage of hot saucing, but yeah, pretty strong hot sauce game. The brand varies. I think probably the best one I ever had was in New Mexico, and I wish I had got the name of it because it was delicious. Anyway, moving on to the next person.
Jemma, no pressure. Tell us who you are, what you do, and do you like hot sauce?
Yeah, my name is Jemma Lee. I'm based here in Toronto, Canada. Currently, I am the head of events at SDR Nation as a side hustle. But when I'm not, when I'm not working on the side hustle, I'm searching for my full-time role in sales ops, rev ops, which Francois is aware of. But I'm really fortunate for this opportunity because it allows me to upskill. And I love hot sauce. In fact, I've gotten addicted to the Grace Foods. It's like the orange, yellow. It's in Canada, but it's the Scotch bonnet hot sauce. And you can find it in the grocery store for like $2.99. But the quality is so good. And I run out of it so fast, and it makes me so sad that there's so much sodium in hot sauce, but I'm totally addicted.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, Jemma. Vicki, tell us who you are, what you do, and you don't have to love hot sauce.
Oh, I love hot sauce. So that's not a problem. Yeah, I'm Vicki Gurney, and I do software escrow or SaaS escrow. So pretty much intellectual property, hold it as a neutral third party, anything and everything except for cash. And yes, I do love hot sauce. I'm not picky. I like it to where your eyes burn just a little and you almost have to reach for a tissue for your nose, and then I'm good.
Lovely. Okay, I like that. Patrick, the bar has been raised.
It has indeed. I am Patrick Downs. I'm the king of swing, the podcast host without the most, the living embodiment of the smiling teardrop emoji and sales enablement manager at PandaDoc. Also, I do love hot sauce. I recommend this, the jalapeno sauce from Trader Joe's, incredible. Of course, you also have to have the sriracha and roasted barbecue. And then as a staple, just the regular old sriracha. You got to have it. So I went to Trader Joe's yesterday. So.
Yeah, perfect. Well, that's a great segue to Christian. We do not expect you to have hot sauce right next to your computer as Patrick does, which is a bit weird. Tell us who you are today, my friend, and how we can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Patrick came prepared for the hot sauce question. Personally, I'm more of a Frank's or a Cholula guy, nothing too extreme. The mild sauce from Wingstop is probably my favorite. But a little bit about me, I'm a BDR at A Sales Guy, which is a sales consultancy and sales training firm started by Keenan, the author of Gap Selling. I just started in this role about a month ago, so still pretty new. Hoping to get your guys' feedback on some of the different strategies used for cold calling. I know you guys have done workshops in the past, so I think a role play would be pretty helpful today, and see where it goes.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, how do you want to start this? I mean, do you want to give us a little bit of a background on maybe, who you're reaching out to, how you're reaching out to them? And then I think a segue, and I can see Patrick's hands are rubbing in the background. Who gets to do the role play? But yeah, maybe tell us who you're reaching out to and how you're reaching out to them today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to, but I don't think we heard your favorite hot sauce, Francois.
Oh, wow. Touche. It's a Mexican one. I don't know. I got it from some little Mexican store here that I get my South American supplies from. I'll maybe run up and get it while we're doing a role play. I don't know. And there is some Frank's always there. And I don't know if we have a Trader Joe's where I'm at, so I'm a little envious of Patrick. But good reverse, as Patrick said there. Bringing me in there. I like that.
I had to know. So yeah, typically my ICP is anywhere from a director level of sales up to CRO, including VP, SVP, pretty much anybody who's involved in training their team and monitoring the results, tracking progress, KPIs and revenue targets, making sure the organization is on track. So those are the types of people I'm reaching out to. And obviously I'm a 20-year-old kid who's never had any experience in those types of roles. So for me, it's really been a steep learning curve, understanding, the day-to-day of these people, what they care about, what their goals are for just doing their job. But it's something that I've been working on a lot, and still got a lot to learn.
Okay, cool. So let's say Patrick is a CRO of a mid-sized company. Would you typically have started with some kind of an outbound sequence, and he's got a couple of emails, he knows who you are, and then you're going to cold call him? Or do you typically just like cold call, like right out of the blue?
Yeah, so honestly, I love this role because I've been able to have the freedom to create all my own sequences. And so I've done a lot of testing with different strategies and setups. Usually I'll start off with a LinkedIn profile view just to confirm that they're still in the role, that and still at the company. Sometimes the data you get from lead databases can be a little off, so I like to double check that. And I'll grab a quick snippet off of their profile or maybe their company page, throw it into the notes, and try to incorporate that into the first email I'll send out. So that's usually day 1 of the sequence, and then day 3 will be a call. So then, they only have 1 email and maybe my face showing up in their LinkedIn notifications, but it's a little bit of familiarity before I try to cold call.
Okay. So let's say Patrick's CRO of, and is it kind of, it's not industry specific, right? He's a CRO, you don't care if he's selling hot sauce or SaaS.
Kind of, it depends. We don't really work in an RFP environment, and we try to stick away from consumer goods and hot sauce. So yeah, more of business to business sales. Yeah.
Okay. So he's disappeared. So either he's changing his costume or he's getting more hot sauce. I'm not sure. So if he doesn't come back, does would anybody else prefer to be a CRO? We'll probably have time to do more than one role play cold call, but does anybody else want to do it, or should we give Patrick the first spin? There you go, Patrick. You're the CRO.
Vicki went off mute.
Oh
Yeah, Vicki went off mute to say, I think Patrick's going to do it.
All right. Well, yeah, I do want to be a CRO, Frank, so it'll be good practice. Let's do it.
Okay, so you're running a SaaS company. Christian's obviously sent you 1 email. It sounds like he's probably seen you posting pictures of your hot sauce. I don't know. Let's go with that. Like, what problem, Christian, do you think you're going to help? Do you want to focus on, or do we want to just kind of do your typical call? Should we just go straight in and then dissect it after that?
Yeah, I think that'd be best. Just kind of dive in.
Yeah.
If I fail, you can kind of point me in the right direction.
Yeah, we can do a couple iterations, and then you got some smart folks here too that can give you some feedback. So let's do it. So Christian's going to give Patrick a call, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Ring, ring.
This is Patrick.
Hey, Patrick. Look, I know I'm an interruption. I'm just going to restart because I didn't say my name. All right. Hey, Patrick, this is Christian from A Sales Guy. Look, I know I'm an interruption. Could I steal 30 seconds to tell you the reason for the call?
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll get right to it. We work with sales leaders like yourself every day, and it seems like they all struggle with some of the main issues in a sales organization. Those are low win rates. The reps are having to compete on price, and as a result, they're often getting beat up on it. A long average sales cycle because reps don't truly understand why their prospects would be willing to buy to make a change. And frankly, just a weak or inaccurate pipeline filling the top of the funnel is kind of an issue. Now, we show them a different approach to sales to address each of these issues. Is that something you'd be open to learning a bit more about?
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. How about this, man? I don't have a lot of time right now, but if you send me an email with some of the information you're talking about, I'll take a look at it and I'll get back to you if it looks like something I want to look at.
Send you an email. Okay. Typically when I hear that, it just means people want to get me off the phone and they don't really care. Would it make sense for us to just find 5 minutes sometime this week where I can kind of get to know a little more about your sales team and what problems you said you're struggling with?
Well, the biggest issue for me, man, is I have reps that have been trained on multiple processes and we're having a hard time getting them to commit to anything. Like we'll do deal reviews structured around methodologies. We've had several trainers come in and try to implement them, but ultimately, especially now that we're remote, it's hard to enforce those practices. So we end up spending money on all this stuff and it never works out. So I'm totally down to review your information, but at this point, I don't know if I want to invest in something else. It's just not going to work.
You said several processes. So you have sellers following different methodologies throughout your organization?
No, over like the past 15 years, we've tried different methodologies. So
Okay.
right now, we only use one at a time.
Okay. And which one is that?
Right now, we're on Sandler.
Sandler.
Mhm.
And are you happy with it?
If they would use it, that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the time when you bring sales training into an organization, people take the training and there'll be an immediate spike in performance results, but after that, they just kind of forget about it. So, I mean, it kind of sounds to me that that's what you're dealing with. Is that off base?
No, that's true.
And so if you have that initial performance spike, what are you doing as a management team to keep that going?
We usually have the trainer like give us materials and maybe even come back and do like a couple deal reviews. It's usually like an add-on to the package. But once that's done, we try to enforce it, and we still have all the structures of the methodology and it's brought up all the time. But ultimately, I think our reps are just afraid of implementing it more than anything. It's happened with every methodology. I think it really comes down to when you try to teach something to somebody, especially if they come from somewhere else, they want to use their own ideas. And that's our biggest problem.
Okay, so it's more of an adoption barrier.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not sure where to go with this. So thank you for your time. I'll send you that information.
So I actually just bought sales training. And yeah, we went with like a sales medic group, and I gave that objection to them. So I was just curious to see how you would handle it.
Did I do better than them?
You actually did. Usually people just the biggest thing that happens when you give someone an objection is they just start vomiting words at you and just trying to explain themselves. And I feel like you did a good job of really trying to understand what I was saying and not just jumping on it. So right away, that's huge, man. Like that's step one, I think.
That's gap selling for you.
Yeah, baby. Eloise, let's start with you, as Frank said.
Alrighty, okay. So first of all, well done. That's a terrifying thing to do. I think my blood would run cold if I was asked to do that in front of a bunch of people. So yeah, you nailed it. And I think from my background, obviously very much in the language and the linguistics, you kept your tone really even throughout, which is a really nice way of building authority. So massive props to that. I think you were able to keep a really even tone of voice. You didn't stumble too much. You obviously knew what you were talking about, which was really encouraging. And I think that in terms of then building that confidence in the person you're speaking to, that was a really, really, really well done. What I would maybe look at is dropping a few more questions in that first 15 seconds of your call. And don't do yourself down by saying you're an interruption. You have something really valuable to bring to the table, Christian. So you should lead with that. Checking that, like, don't call yourself interruption. Just like, hey, I appreciate you're probably super busy, but do you have 30 seconds for me to run a couple of questions by you? Because I think I have something that might be able to help you with common problems from people in your industry that experience something similar. Would that be okay by you? Like, frame it positively. And then he's like, yeah, sure, of course. If you can fix my problem, I mean, Patrick's terrifying on the phone, but like, sure, if you can fix my problem, I would love to help with that. And then you can go and say, right, okay, so other people experience X, Y, and Z. Is that true for you too? Bang in with the questions, because then you bring him into a dialogue and he's not sitting there scrolling through Twitter being like, well, this guy getting off the phone. So add in some more questions. I did promise you I wasn't going to do the swears, Francois. But add in those questions, because then suddenly you're building this rapport, right? And obviously we know that you know what you're talking about. We know that you build on those questions. And what was really fab, as you said at the end, is like you're not like, no, but I need to call over. No, you couldn't help him. What I would say in the end of that is like, okay, great. Completely appreciate that that's a problem you have right now. if that's something that we could help you with more as a greater focus in the future, could I call you back if we have something that's going to meet that need and exceed it? Would that be okay? Because that way you're leaving him on a positive note. You've established yourself as someone who's going to help with his issues further down the line, and you're building that platform for that long-term relationship. But yeah, otherwise I thought you nailed it. Those are just kind of my couple of cents in there. But I think, yeah, you definitely, you're on the right path for sure.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I thought it was a really good point to get quicker to the questions. I feel like I was a little, I don't know, rambling about, oh, other sales leaders experience this, and this, instead of asking them if that's what they see. So I really like that. Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, I'll go next. Really enjoyed like listening to the conversation. It really surprised me that you've only been in your role for a month, because you were very like cool, calm, and collected, and it felt like a casual conversation rather than trying to like sell him something. I felt like you took the initiative to really understand like who he was, what the purpose of your call was and whatnot. And I don't want to I don't want to repeat Eloise's feedback, but yeah, I would totally agree. I think, yeah, you were just like super easy to talk to. It was very casual. I didn't feel you sweat or stammer or anything like that. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And I actually just got accepted into SDR Nation. So Jemma, I'm sure we'll be meeting again sometime.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome. You'll be new just like me. This is like, I'm closing out my second week. So what a small world.
It is, yes.
Awesome. Vicki, what did you think?
Yes, I agree that it seems like you've been there longer and been doing this longer. So one thing, I completely agree with what Eloise said about not being putting a negative spin on things, and her suggestion was good. And another one that I use is, I realize I'm not on your calendar, and so same thing, just slightly different. And when you started and you didn't say your name and then you like stopped and went back, just roll, because that actually would have just worked as a pattern interrupter almost, I think. So, and you're human. It's okay. People, want to work with humans. Listen, otherwise, girl wouldn't have sold anything. So it's okay to just be you. I really liked when you called him on it basically and said, well, usually when somebody tells me to send an email, it means they don't care. I love that, because you politely put him on the spot, and so I think that's a great tactic. And I like that you ask him, what is management doing to reinforce it? Because again, you put it back on him, and that was awesome. So I think that as you go further in this position, your confidence is going to increase, and it's just kind of normal. I think we all have confidence issues, and if we don't, then we're just lying and not admitting it out loud. But I think you did a great job. Yeah, and I missed how long you've been there. Just a month, right? But how long have you been in that role before?
Yeah, so I actually started as a full cycle AE for about 4 months in July of 2020. And then I kind of was unemployed for a little bit and then found this gig. So.
Okay, I think that's great. You had that full cycle experience, but that's just a personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. But appreciate the feedback, Vicki. I'm definitely going to steal that. I know I'm not on your calendar line.
Really great points that Vicki had just there. I love that you picked up on the point where, Christion, you put it back on Patrick a little bit, and not in an aggressive way, but just in well, hey, let's build up the fullest picture of the problem you're actually having. Because if the problem that you're having is that your SDRs are not adopting the new training that they've been given, what is management doing to reinforce that? So you're making him think about the bigger picture, which is great, because it shows that you're valuable because you're thinking about that bigger picture too, which means that you're more likely to recommend a solution that's going to be strategically inclined to work. So I would definitely encourage more of that in the future, because you're building building out those kind of, again, not just short-term wins, but those real long-term strategic solutions of, well, look, we're not just thinking about your current like symptom of the problem. What is the actual root cause of the issue that you're going through? Can we help you with that? If we can't, can we recommend someone who can? Yeah, definitely. Also, so you've been doing sales for 5 months.
Something like that.
No. Your bio, you've done some retail. Like you didn't just like roll out of like high school and this is your first job. Come on.
No. So I went to Michigan State, had a few sales classes at my time, and a couple sales internships, but that was mostly an inbound role and a marketing internship. So outbound, my first experience started in July of last year.
Well, props.
Yeah, no. I still think you're doing great, but I just want to put the caveat, like you know, Christian didn't just like wake up yesterday and be like, I think I'm going to try sales. Like, you know, you had a little bit of time, but outbound, like, you know, I'll just add. I mean, there was also some great points. I mean, I think that the piece like around challenging is tricky, right? Because, you know, if you're interrupting somebody, you know, if you're just, you know, if you can't really rattle them and make them like, listen, okay, yeah, I guess, you know, so, but you don't want to challenge them and then not have something useful. And that just annoys them. Then they're like, you really were annoying, right? If all you're doing is taking down this pain road of all these terrible things, and at the end there's nothing for them, they're just gonna be like, yeah, dude, I know all this. Why did you basically remind me? But the cool thing is, like, we're not even halfway through our time. I don't want to put you on the spot and do another one. I'm wondering, I'm gonna put my good buddy Patrick on the spot. Like, should we get Patrick to do one with, you know, where he calls one of us? And so you can kind of see just a different angle. I'm not saying we're going to do perfect. And Eloise said she wouldn't swear, but I'm thinking if we called her, she could at least use some kind of Scottish profanity that we don't understand.
Why would you do that? No, I've done lots of talking. I feel like this should definitely go to someone else.
Well, Patrick can call me or Vicky or Jemma. What do you think, Christian? I mean, if you want to do another one, that's totally fair game, right, Patrick? I mean, we can, if you want, because honestly, what we've seen is like when people come through here and then when we follow up with people, it's just like reps. Wouldn't you agree, Patrick? Like you're training your teams, like it's just time on the phone doing this, like the comfort will come.
Yeah, I'm curious, Christian, what were you hoping to get out of this call today?
Honestly, I think you can never practice enough, and it's always good to get an outside perspective and be able to really analyze where your shortcomings are and just new ideas about what you're doing. So I guess with that being said, I kind of like the idea of putting Patrick on the spot and making him cold call somebody, just to kind of see what it would look like on the outside looking in, if that makes sense. And, you know, if we have time, maybe I could do another one after that.
Whew.
Down to do it.
Wow. He's cramming.
Depends on how good your call goes, Patrick. I don't know.
Oh, it's gonna go fantastically. We'll
All right,
see.
Patrick, you're gonna call me. Eloise doesn't want to be the victim this time. Unless Vicky or Jemma, do you want to be?
I don't want to get a reputation for being the sweary one in 5 on Friday. I'm protecting myself from that side of things. So I feel like
I don't think pissing up a wall was a swear. It was just a very cool colloquial saying.
Pissing up the wall is my favorite thing.
also the quick buck versus the long-term relationship. Having Amy mishear that last week, I will never live that down.
Yeah.
So let's.
What's up, Vicky? You had a question?
Oh no, I the profanity. I'm gonna have to figure all those out because yeah, I missed it.
So I guess before I volunteer, does Jemma or Vicky, do you want to be the CRO? No, Vicky?
Not particularly.
I'm gonna be like Eloise and jump in next time when I come visit you guys again.
Okay, so Patrick, I'll be the guy from Office Space. What was the boss's name? You call me.
Wait, what was his name? The stapler guy?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember his name.
I don't
Can you
know.
be Frank?
I'm Frank. CRO.
Frank. It's nice to meet you, Frank.
No,
All right,
way.
I'm ready. You call whenever.
Hey, Frank, this is Patrick.
Patrick, how can I help you?
Hey, Frank, I'm going to be upfront with you. This is a sales call. Do you want to give me 30 seconds or would you like to hang up on me, my friend?
My natural reaction was to hang up, but I can give you 30 seconds.
You meant to say you're still going to hang up, didn't you?
potentially. No, the timer's on. The timer's on.
Okay, let's see how I do. Well, Frank, thanks for the time, man. The reason I'm calling is I typically get invited into meetings with sales leaders. We're looking to do one of three things. One, they're looking to improve the close rate at the bottom of the funnel. Two, they're looking to improve forecasting accuracy. Three, it's none of those things, but their reps just aren't following up on proposals. I imagine what you're going to tell me, though, is that none of that's relevant in your world.
A couple of those sound familiar.
Curious which one?
Number 3.
Number 3?
Yeah.
Okay. I imagine you're going to say you don't want to tell me any more about that and that you want to hang up now that I've got my 30 seconds.
I'll give you another, I'll top it up. I'll give you a minute to tell me what you think you could do to help me with the third one.
Well, I don't know if I can help you. Would you mind giving me an example of how that's affected you in the past?
Man, you put me on the spot. So the problem was reps not following up?
Correct. Yeah. Typically what we see is that there are reps that send out proposals and then let them sit and focus on new leads.
Yeah, I think it's just volume. They've just got a lot on their plate. We see that the proposal's going out, but then they're just chasing new leads coming in. So I think it's just time management, maybe tool set, maybe.
Gotcha. How long has this been a problem?
Since I've been here, 6 months.
Okay. What have you guys done to try to fix it?
Do I have to tell you?
Well, typically when I call people, they told me that they've done things like try to implement new processes through Microsoft Word, or they haven't done that, but they've tried to go and get an outside person to come in and train them on follow-up processes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we honestly we've passed the buck to somebody that runs the CRM and says, hey, can't Salesforce kind of help automate some of this follow-up activity? So I think that's whose court it's in right now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, do you think this is just the way it's got to be, or if there's a better way you'd explore it?
Well, I mean, I'd be open to exploring it. What do you suggest?
Well, I don't know if we can fix it for you completely, Frank. I don't know enough about you, but I've called up people that have said the same things, that the reps are sending out proposals and just letting 50K deals sit and then focusing on the new leads instead of closing what's already in the pipeline. So let's pretend I could fix that issue for you, and you believe we could once you saw how we operate. Is there any reason that you would invite me in for 45 minutes to view that? And then if there's nothing there, you just tell me to kick rocks and you'll never see me again.
I know. I'd say let's find a time in the calendar now, and get it in.
Good. Okay. And so
That's perfect. That was good. Yeah. I mean, I was probably, and I think Patrick was too. We're probably pretty friendly. Like we all know there's the people that just won't even give you 1 second, right? They just hang up. But if you can get them, I was probably, I don't know about nicer, but yeah, I'm happy. Not happy. I'm curious. Maybe let's start with Christion.
Yeah, I mean, I love that line. I've tried it, the opening where you're like, do you want to hang up on me now? Honestly, I haven't gotten the greatest results from it. They're like, yeah, no thanks, buddy. Click. So that's why I switched to the interruption. But overall, I like how you really structured out the conversation. Sales leaders struggling with 1, 2, 3, and then really made it feel like he wasn't pressured to say yes to a meeting. You're like, look, let's find 45 minutes. If I can solve that problem for you, great. If not, you can tell me to kick rocks. So I thought that was a really nice touch at the end there too.
And that strategy on the first line really comes down to how you deliver it. I wouldn't always deliver it that way. I try to laugh like when I'm delivering that line and make it sort of jovial, and it's a pattern interrupt, right? It could be anything that makes somebody go like, what did you just say? And most of the time, if they do let you go though, there's a booked meeting. The whole point of that is you're going to get the hangups, but those are typically the people that would hang up after you pitch them. So you get it out of the way. And then once you've gotten permission, once the pitch hits, they've already given you permission for the pitch. So this person is like locked in with you and you're able to have an actual conversation. Because the number one thing is people feel trapped into pitches because they don't have an opportunity to leave. So you're giving the people that don't want to talk to you the opportunity to just leave. And then you can call them again down the line, maybe when they're in a better mood.
Yeah. And then, I mean, again, you were like, I know you've already given me 30 seconds. Do you want to round it up or whatever that was? That was a perfect way of expanding the ask for permission to keep going.
The most important part, if you're going to ask for time, is you need to then bring it up again. Because if you don't bring up that you asked for time, they're going to be like, well, you just went 3 minutes. Like, well, I've had my 30 minutes. Do you want to hang up?
I was
And if
going
they
to
stay on with you, it's a booked meeting.
I was going to ask, do you do any, so these are cold calls, right? So you didn't know Frank, like, you know who Frank was, but you've never talked to me. But do you do any homework to go like, oh, Frank looks like he's pretty friendly on LinkedIn, or he looks like a hard ass, or is it true cold call? Like, you know who I work for, you know what probably some of my problems are. Like, are you trying to figure out, is this guy going to take, like, I guess what I'm asking is, do you have two scripts? One is, I think these people are friendly, so I think this line will work. And I think these guys are tough nuts. I think this.
No, I think people try too much to like be really strategic in sales. When you're cold calling, you have no idea what's going to be on the other end of the line. If you try to over prepare, you're just going to over prepare for the wrong thing. There's no reason to do it. I think as long as you have a script and a talk track that's sound and it makes psychological sense, and then you know it well and you can deliver it, you need to do it the same way every time. Or if you're doing more of an ABM strategy, cool, personalize it, but you can't mix both of those things. And I feel like people try to do both and they end up burning like mental capacity, trying to figure stuff out before they're even on the call. And then they can't focus on the call once they get in there because they're overthinking it the whole time.
It's a really, really good point. Like, I think a lot of people mistake doing your research with doing discovery. They're not the same thing. Like, doing your research on what is this person going to look at, and I mean, obviously they're similar, but like getting that person in person on the phone and then having that call there and getting them open to the idea of discussing more with you is vital. And then when you get them locked into that 45-minute proper discovery call, like, they're going to tell you more because they're less concerned about having to have it made a transaction. And I think you did that so well, Patrick, where you're like, you know, if it isn't going to be of use to you, you can just tell me to get the hell out. So they're going to share more with you because they don't have to protect against this sale they don't necessarily want to be responsible for making ultimately.
Jemma or Vicky, any thoughts? Would you have kept talking to Patrick?
I think so. Patrick's a nice guy. I wouldn't mind talking to him.
Vicky, what did you think? Did did anything you liked better or didn't like compared to Christian's approach?
I think that Christian's approach is very Christian and that Patrick's approach is very Patrick. And I think that that's what's most important, is that, again, that you do what works for you. And yeah, I thought Patrick's was good. I like the fact that you honored the time commitment that you'd made with him. And I do that on calls. Like, if I'm getting close, I'll say, so it looks like we only have 2 minutes left. Just wanted, to respect your time. Do you have a hard stop? Can we continue, or should we schedule, because I got to get the next thing out, whatever the next thing is, whether that's another call or whatnot. But I really like that. I think that builds trust. I think it was awesome. I think you were a little easy on him, Francois. But
of course I did. Yeah. I needed a different pair of spectacles to be the tough guy. I think you brought up a really good point, though, Vicky. You're cold calling Patrick, but he's also interviewing you. So if you're respectful of his time, if you challenge him and make him think, he's coming off of that call kind of going, I think this Christian guy is like pretty sharp. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not just like, oh, he hoodwinked me into a call. Like, so there's elements in there, right? Because if you're like doing all these time checks, there's a bunch of things. Like, I think we underestimate how much rapport building there is right out of the gate there. Where another person might convince you get on a call, but you're like, I don't really know if I'd want to do business with this person. They just kind of were really slick and convinced me to talk to them again. Whereas it might be like, no, like, Christian made me think, he was respectful of my time. So there's a bunch of elements in there that I think you don't want to underestimate. So go ahead, Vicky, go ahead.
Sorry, and to Eloise's point earlier, it's more of a consultative approach, right? And that's just how I tend to treat people. I want it to be more of a relationship because I want them to buy from me, and whether that's now or whether that's in 6 months or in 2 years, I'm putting the work in now. I might as well reap the benefits at some point or set myself up to be able to continue that relationship.
Well, and what all I was going to follow up with is, I think Christian's trying to maximize the amount of time in here. And I think I can see he's chomping at the bit here. He's going, okay, well, let's go for the second round. And that's cool. But how do you want to frame it? Do you want to do kind of the same approach or doing the same thing, just a different person, or do you want to have another at bat with Patrick?
So actually, I was thinking we might take a different route because I think, Eloise, something you said about researching your prospect, and Francois, when you were talking about, do you segment two different scripts into this guy looks friendly, this gal does not? I'm curious what you guys do or what you would recommend to prepare for a cold call. And typically I spend like a maximum of 2 to 3 minutes on a person's LinkedIn profile, see if there's anything there. And then I'll go to the company page, look at the insights, look at the growth of the sales team, how many jobs they have open, etc., and have that in my back pocket. But I'm curious what you guys think is effective in preparing for this.
I have a question. Are you calling one person at each company, or do you have a list of people that you're going to try to get some production?
It depends on the company or the account. Typically, it's more than one, probably 1 to 3.
I mean, I'll give you my 2 cents. I mean, I think Patrick indicated, like, you can spend too much cognitive load on, like, does Eloise like cats? Does she like dogs? Does she like Starbucks? Does she
I like both.
Dunkin'? Right? Right. So then what do you do? But I think really what you're trying to get to is, like, if Eloise works for Acme, what's Acme's problem? Like, you want to be able to, nail something that is very pertinent to her, and she's selling it into an industry. So maybe there's even, I would say, more than personalizing on Eloise, but like if Eloise is trying to sell more widgets into a certain market, if there's something in that market that you've read or that could, make them sound like you've done a little bit of homework. Because I think, to Patrick's point, trying to get too personal, I think they might be like, look, you cold call me, like, don't try and figure me out. Like, what problem can you help me solve? Just get to the point. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
No, I'm with you 100%. And I think that when it comes to that initial cold call, it's also kind of creepy and weird if you show up with too many personal details to someone, because that's going to make all of my skin crawl. So I would much rather that you showed a genuine interest in my company and the problems that I'm solving and the issues that my company is going to face more broadly, than if you were to tell me, hey, I noticed you really like calico cats. Can we have a chat about a sales function that I can help you with? What? It's about knowing what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And I think that, overthinking your call at the expense of being natural is not a great thing to do. You obviously have a great natural style, and I think that people connect with people. If you can be a bit human, if you can have a laugh on the phone, if you screw up by not introducing yourself properly, that's okay. Turn it into that pattern breaker, and then you come across as being not entirely perfect, which is really nice because no one wants to think you're reading from a script. You're forging that rapport and that genuine interaction. So yeah, I think probably what you're doing in terms of that couple of minutes of personalization is great, and trying to make the things you would want to work through in a sales call, cold call, an unconscious competence. So don't think about it. If you can at all avoid consciously thinking step 1, step 2, step 3, and actually just have a conversation. It sounds like the easiest thing to do, but it's also the hardest thing to do, is just to have a natural conversation where you're genuinely trying to solve a problem. It's really irritating generic advice, but that's honestly just kind of where I would come at it from. And again, practice, like you say, like just picking up the phone constantly, getting used to it, dealing with the rejections and moving on, is really one of the only ways to go. But I'd love to know what Patrick and what Jemma have to say on that too.
I think there's a big difference between personalization and relevance. And this is a topic I keep seeing, right? Like, personalization is, hey, I saw you went to UNH, go Wildcats. Relevance is, hey, I know that in your day-to-day, you have to juggle a lot of responsibilities and it's hard to focus on just one, right? If you know exactly what I go through, that's relevance. And that can come from things that you find in your research. The things that I find most helpful are like job postings. You can find out a lot about someone's job from the way they describe it on their LinkedIn job postings or in Glassdoor. I do that all the time because for PandaDoc, sometimes they'll say, hey, do you have experience with DocuSign or with Conga? And I know exactly what they're using and the kind of person they're trying to hire to operate those tools. So that's relevance, right? That's not me being creepy. That's me understanding them. So I would try to find like 1 or 2 points of relevance and build it into your structure that you have now, but don't go overboard.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's kind of like asking for a warm intro or like a job referral. It's like, hey, we both went to this school. How's it been? It's like been 20 years. I noticed you know this person. Can you refer me? But it's like, okay, most people are gonna be like ignore or no. So you really have to like try to find out as much research as information as you can through your research to really make it relevant, like Patrick said.
Yeah, I've heard that debate coming up, Patrick, about the whole personalization. And I think, there's some people who are big fans, but I think the one way I kind of heard it is like, I don't care how personalized your email is and how much, like, get it to the point and just tell me how you can help me. And I think, I'd say save the personalization to maybe later down to build a little bit more rapport. So maybe after you've had 2 or 3 calls, you can say, hey, look, we happen to go to the same seminary. Wasn't that funny? Ha ha. I don't know. Something like that, right? Unlikely, but you know what I mean. So I think that the creep factor, and I think some people are just trying too hard with that. So the you did this, because you can tell some people are just, it's almost scripted, right? They're just stripping something from your profile. Oh, I see you did this. Oh, by the way, we have a product to sell you. It just doesn't even make sense anymore.
Patrick, I love the personalization versus relevance. It was like this, big light bulb went off. And so I'm going to use that one. I'm sure it's probably everybody out there knew that but me, or had put it in that way. But with some of the people that I work with, I'm going to use that because I think that's just spot on.
Yeah, and what I've often said is, and I think Vicki mentioned it in the first call, right? Like the getting to the point right away. And so I think, it's a war for attention right now, right? So whether it's scrolling, phone, email, they're getting text, like it's just, they're getting bombarded. So I think Patrick used it in one of our 5 on Fridays. Like it's almost like a cliffhanger. Like you get Patrick on the line and then you want, like, what did you say, Eloise, like a few sessions ago? Like, if you don't do this, what will get you fired? Or, like it sounds a bit dramatic, but for them to go, okay, I'm listening now, versus, hey, you weren't rambling on, but like you want to basically say, look, I know you have this problem. This is how we've kind of solved it. Or is this a problem? Yes or no? And it's a problem. So if they say no, then like Patrick said, you move on to the next one. But you take, I don't want to be too dramatic, but Eloise, you framed it nicely the other week in reminding them that if they didn't do this, they'd get fired.
Yeah, subtle. No, I think what is interesting is that it also depends on who you're talking to and how they like to be spoken with. But I would love to know everyone else's thoughts on urgency versus directness and potentially veering into rudeness, because I think you do need to create some sense of urgency, in order to move people along your process. But there's also can you do that without ruffling someone's feathers? And I think that's when you look at what is the issue of this problem if you don't address it right now, rather than, hey, dickhead, you need to solve this because I want to close a sale. And I think that's really important. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to do see, Vicki, I hope you understand now the risk that Francois takes when he lets me come on to 5 on Friday.
That's what I was going to say. I'm all up to speed now. Thank you.
But it is, if you can stop. So that's when personalization is it's don't make it personal, but help them to understand how, if their problem continues to keep rolling and they don't speak to you soon, what are the consequences of that? And I think that that's when you get into the, what would a vision of success look like for you? What would the ideal solution be in your world? And you let them sit on that for a bit, and then you bring them back down to earth and say, well, okay, so if you don't fix it, what's going to happen? What are the risks of leaving this untended? Patrick, Francois, does that cover off the kind of sentiment you feel from the last time, or?
Yeah, no, I do.
I like how you framed it.
I liked how you framed it at the beginning, right? I mean, you can be a jerk or dickhead by just calling something out that's, I think a bit of friction is good, but it's going to work with some, like Patrick was saying, it's a numbers game, and that, Christion, already, right? You haven't been doing it long, but you may have your script perfect, but there's some people that just don't want to listen, like they just don't. And the hook you might use, some people might think it's brilliant and they might even tell you that. And some people just, they don't care. You got them at a bad time. It didn't resonate. So yeah, I think I'm just looking at the clock here. We got about 12 minutes left. How do you want to use this time? And if you don't have an answer, Eloise will just keep filling the swear jar. So
Yeah, no, I think Eloise had a few great points in there. It actually sounds like you've read Gap Selling because you pretty much highlighted a lot of the components within it. Once you have those other phone calls and you know what problems they're experiencing, it's a bit different, especially if you can quantify it and say, I'm confused. You told me that if you don't implement PandaDoc, you're going to lose $30,000 every month. Why is a $10,000 solution not worth that? So I think it's all about understanding, their unique problems, because the technical problems that people experience are often the same, but the business problems, the impacts of those technical problems vary by each case. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I do know that it's been a pleasure so far. I don't know
Good
what you
question.
guys would like to, you got a question, Patrick?
Yeah, because I've worked with people that sell sales training, and they tell me the number one thing that they hear is what I said to you, which is like, hey, we've tried this in the past. It didn't really work. People didn't like latch onto it. What is your answer to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't really had that come up all too often. I'm still pretty new, so I'm working through how to reinforce that. But typically we don't work with sales organizations who don't have a structure in place to be able to coach their reps and make sure that what we come in and do will actually stay and have a long-term impact. So we offer manager training to really get them to understand what their responsibilities for leading a gap selling organization are. And it's really involved from the top down. So everybody's got to be on board and understand what the organization's goals are and what each person has to do to reinforce and make sure that happens. And that was really long-winded. I would never talk that much to a prospect. So
There's something good in there. I mean, I feel like you almost want to go talk to Keenan, right? Be like, hey, Keenan, like, I'm sure you've heard this before. Who's a client that you had where when you first reached out to them, they said they've done this in the past and it hasn't worked. People haven't latched onto it. And then we've gotten on board with them and then given them our structure. And then it was finally the one that stuck. Cause I'm sure he has a story like that that you could reference.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I think as this goes on, because we don't have an AE right now. Actually, Brady, our VP of operations, is taking over the AE responsibilities, and I'm attending like all the discovery calls. So as I get to hear from the people we're working with in their own words, what their issues are and what triggers them, that really helps in my outreach as well. Because like I said earlier, I'm like some 20-something-year-old kid who's never had a VP of sales title or director of sales. I don't know what they care about, what they are triggered by. So being in those conversations and learning things about like, oh, you've had this in place before, why didn't it work? And just getting to know more about that is super helpful too.
I have
I
a question.
recommend, go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Do you record calls? And did the person before you record their calls? Because if
Yeah.
those exist, you could go back and listen. I mean, potentially, especially if you have the software that will transcribe and then you can search for the words, and that's what I want.
Yeah, so we're not a Gong company. We are an exec vision company, but I have been able to listen to a few of my past colleagues' calls. I did have some big shoes to fill with Ryan Scalera being the last guy in the role, and then Rachel May, the gal before. So they do an amazing job in those, and it's been super helpful to watch those too.
And that, but think about that. Look whose footsteps you're following in. You've been chosen to follow in the footsteps. No, seriously, of these two wonderful people. And it's funny because Rachel just responded to me on LinkedIn. So clearly, Keenan sees something great in you. And I think we can all agree we see it too. So for whatever that's worth, just know that, it's going to be so good. But I do want to see some videos.
They're pending in the pipeline for content.
I mean, you're putting yourself out here today, so don't discount that, right? You're putting yourself out to strangers and getting feedback. So definitely some kudos there. I think Patrick was mentioning it, or I don't know if it was Eloise, but I think all those customer stories are really super interesting, because ultimately that's the social proof you want to articulate to your prospects in the cold call. If you can get them to listen, is listen, I'm a 20-year-old kid. I'm not telling you I'm a CRO, but here's what our customers are saying we've solved, and here's how we solved them. So I don't know if that self-deprecating could backfire, but I saw a couple head nods there, Eloise. People appreciate a 20-year-old trying, but they also wouldn't appreciate if you're like talking down to them. But if you frame it as, hey, I'm the messenger, but here's all the amazing things we're doing, it might be a better spin.
That's a really, really great way to angle it, I suppose. And it's not even an angle, it's just setting the scene. Nick Pozzi, I'm probably mangling his last name, but he has a really great perspective on the whole kind of mirroring thing. Like, you've heard of mirroring as a technique for, like, you mirror someone's language, you use the words that they use, you build that kind of empathy and rapport. Mirroring can be a bit creepy in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, in terms of like, yeah, there you go. Right, but but in that vein, if you can become in sync with someone, and then it adds weight and authority to you being that messenger. So yeah, okay, so you might be 20 years old. We all have to start somewhere. I guarantee that you being honest and upfront about that, and having that kind of almost that degree of vulnerability, not to sound too hokey, but that degree of vulnerability, to say to someone, look, I am just 20 years old, but here's what I understand and have had told to me from someone in a similar situation to you. This is what happened to them after they used our product. I'd love to talk about that with you if that's a solution you might be interested in hearing about, and quantify it. Like, what are the numbers? What did they solve? What were the outcomes? What were their OKRs? What were they looking at? How did you help them to meet those goals ultimately? And how can you really kind of, like you say, it's the social proof that Francois was saying earlier. What is the social proof of what you're offering? How can you communicate that in the most impactful and effective manner? Now, if like Patrick's got his thinking face on, so he might want to jump in here.
Just a quick point of clarification. I love that feedback, Louise, but I know I included in my bio to you guys that I like a good whiskey and bourbon. So I wanted to clarify that I am 21, not 20.
Oh, great. Okay. So well, obviously we were all about to lose sleep over that, but it sounds like
I know that.
but props for the whiskey and the bourbon.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to break the ice in your cold call and tell them you're of a legal drinking age, it probably is a pattern interrupt. I mean, I am allowed to vote, and therefore I can give you sales advice. I mean, who knows, right? I mean, there's good ways to try and use some humor. I'll send you over John Selig's information. I think he's doing these sales comedy classes, and he's got some good icebreakers, right? I mean, comedy is a good way to just break the ice. We got just under 5 minutes left. Anybody else have any, I guess, Christion, do you have any closing questions for us, or does anybody have any parting words of advice or hot sauce recommendations?
Oh, Francois, where's your hot sauce?
It's Valencia.
Okay.
It came back to me. Valencia,
Okay.
something. It's delicious.
I've heard of it before. But no, like Christion, just to echo off of Vicky's feedback, like I think it's amazing that you're working at a sales guy, and I think like my experience with you during this hour has been like you're a rising star, and I can't wait to see like what doors open for you. And I think that definitely Keenan and the rest of the sales guys team definitely hired you for a reason, because I bet that there's like people lining up just to work or be developed under Keenan. So that's something to consider. And I'll see you sometime soon through SDR Nation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jemma. I'll see you on new member kickoff or orientation in April.
And that was something I was going to say. I'm so glad you are doing the SDR Nation. I think getting involved with like-minded people, or with people who are doing the same thing, will really help. Just swapping ideas and so forth. Those little tiny nuggets sometimes can make all the difference in the world for you. So I don't know if you're in any groups or anything, but I find a lot of value in those myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in Rev Genius too. Shout out Jared Robin. But your little nugget of, I know I'm not on your calendar, I'll try that out and I'll let you know how it goes.
Please do. I use it with attorneys. I work with outside counsel a lot for a referral base, and it works with them. So,
I wish I would have known that in my last role, where an attorney was threatening to sue me because I cold called him once. So
I've run into those too, though. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
if you don't have an attorney trying to see you on a cold call, I don't even think you are cold calling. I think that's it's a rite of passage.
You're not living. You're not living. Okay, man. Well, that's great feedback. I mean, most of us, I'm sure if you want to circle back at some time, we're happy to do, because it's reps, right? So if you want to do some cold calling, I know Patrick and I, that's what we're doing Saturday night. We're just role playing. There's a reason we've got, props. We gotta get into character. So exactly, right? No, I've got wigs, Eloise. I'm not putting them on. Not today. Not today. It's not time.
Pretty please, Frank. Pretty please.
Not today.
Smart.
Oh, come on.
You can't just tease us like that, Frank.
Okay, fine. Hold on.
See, that's how you objection handle.
He showed me his gold fanny pack earlier. It was an experience.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked you have a fanny pack.
I like that, Christian, you've just been thrown in the deep end of the eccentricities of 5 on Friday.
This is
But
how
your
you
hand-
cold call. How you cold call me.
I'm worried at how quickly you put that on, Francois.
I love
He
it.
just has it hanging right there.
That's a great way to wrap up. Thanks everybody for making time and sharing your hot sauce details. And we'll see you on the flip side. Have a great weekend.
Thank you all. Take
See
care.
everybody. Take
Bye.
care.